Before I start, I just want to say that there is a Discord server for the channel now, which a few people have requested. There aren't that many people on it at the moment, but once I've built it up then it should actually be quite good. A link for that is in the description below. Burnout has become one of the most loved racing game franchises in gaming history, and is still talked about a lot, even though at the time of recording this there hasn't been a completely new Burnout game for about 12 years. But the series hasn't always been as good as people remember, as people only really talk about the last game, Burnout Paradise, and the third game, Burnout 3 Takedown, which is the reason why I started playing the series in the first place. The original Burnout is one of the few games that is hard to review, because it's the first game of its type and so there's nothing to compare it to. There were games for street racing and games for crashing, but no one had made a game that had both. What makes it even harder to review is that it was released very early on into the 6th generation, and so even if there were games like it, they would have all been on the first PlayStation, Nintendo 64 and Sega Saturn, making any comparison irrelevant. The first Burnout is not the kind of game that I usually play, so coming up with anything to say about it is going to take a lot longer than it does for other games that I've reviewed in the past. Burnout was developed by Criterion Games and published by Acclaim Entertainment. It was released on the PlayStation 2 in Q4 2002, and the original Xbox and Nintendo GameCube in Q2 2003. There was also a mobile version, which nobody cares about. Burnout is full of championships that need to be done in order to complete the game. In these championships you can only race, which is a bit boring, but I guess the only reason why I think that is because I'm more used to Burnout 3. So it is a start. When you crash in the game, which is way too easy to do, the game will show you an amount of money, which is the amount of damage that you have caused, and that is added to your total at the end of the race. The more damage that you have caused, the higher up the worst drivers list you will be. If you ignore the fact that the game has championships, then the game feels like it should have been released in arcades, and arcades only. This is going to sound a bit weird, but the physics don't seem like they were made for a 6th generation console release, which is a shame as other developers have shown what the renderware engine is capable of, such as Rockstar Games with the 3D Universe Grand Theft Autos, Activision and Neversoft with Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3, 4 and Underground, and EA with Need for Speed Underground. Even the Italian job on the PlayStation 1 feels better than Burnout. The physics in this game really wasn't Criterion Games' finest hour, but it could be worse. I'm not a huge fan of the car list either. Overall, Burnout has 9 vehicles and they are all made for the game, which I am fine with. Usually I think if you're going to have arcadey physics, then you should have licensed cars. But that would have been an issue with Burnout because manufacturers don't want to see their cars showing too much damage in games. And seeing as a huge part of Burnout is crashing, having licensed cars is out of the question. I think Criterion could have tried a little bit harder with the design of the cars. Come to think of it, why don't game studios hire actual car designers to design cars for games? That might not be a bad thing. We have cars ranging from the Super Mini, which I'm pretty sure is based on a Vauxhall Corsa, to some of the biggest vehicles that you'll find on the road, such as a bus and a truck. But don't think that because they are bigger, they will smash traffic out of the way. They will, but you'll take yourself out in the process. Overall, I'm going to give Burnout a 4 out of 10. I don't like any part of this game at all, and I think Criterion should have spent a little bit more time developing it. But it is one of the predecessors to one of my favourite racing games of all time, and that's why it doesn't get a 0. So, I don't recommend this game, and you should just go straight to the second one, or even the third one. This has been my review of Burnout on the PlayStation 2. If you liked this review, then please give it a like. If you didn't, then give it a dislike, and if you want to see more, then please consider subscribing and joining the Discord server. Goodbye.